Anyone that doesn't have a system plan will be have no legal standing, meaning that it will be challenged in court and will probably be deemed unenforceable. Actually, very, very likely it would be deemed unenforceable. So this is a cornerstone to make sure that any new regulations we pass are actually enforceable. Next, please. The overall plan consists of two parts. There's an inventory. It's basically the sum total of all the data and knowledge that describe our conditions. And then the implementation. So the recommendations, and this you'll see a lot of. GPS, not the thing on your cell phone that tells you where to go. I have a book that tells me where to go, so anyway, that's goals, policies, and strategies. It describes the steps and responsible parties, and that's a key thing. It's not just what we do, but we also identify their responsibilities, responsible parties to work towards the desired future. And another part of this is future land use, and its considerations for future zoning districts and land uses. Progress to date, way back in 2019, we completed a community survey with 160 questions. It was presented to the town on August 24th. That was when we had our first attempt at completing and updating our comprehensive plan. It was led by Cliff Kronick. Unfortunately, a little thing called COVID came along and just blew it all out of the water. So we've obviously reorganized it, kicked it off again, and so now we have what's called a full comprehensive plan inventory draft. It has a total of 9 goals, 32 policies, and 136 strategies. So this is not trivial in any way, shape, or form. This deep dives into virtually every aspect of managing our town and helping our town managers plan. It also gives the people of the town a vision of what we're going to grow to, at least we hope we grow to. Back in the survey, we sent out 1,600 surveys. We only received 6.7 back, 107. So unfortunately, that deems the data not statistically valid. Not enough people responded to say, everybody wants this. Of course, there were some things that were 100% everyone was against. But when you got into some of the grayer areas, you can't really count on the survey. The next steps is we revise the plan based on the community feedback. We hope to have a public hearing on August 6th. We hope to vote to accept the plan at the town meeting on September 7th. And then one little line at the bottom, just those 3 little words, execute the implementation plan. That's a big task, and it should not be underestimated. Next, please. I won't read all of this, but here's the contents of the plan. Obviously, titles, this is the chapter, the pages for each. And again, you see there's 12 things. We'll touch on each of these, not in great detail. We'll show that in next. So next slide, please. So we'll start off population and historic development findings. In 2020, the census showed we had 1,791 residents. We're supposed to grow by 270 people in the next 15 to 20 years. That's about 20%. That's pretty good. It's interesting, our working population between 25 and 54 is slightly larger in Parsonsfield versus York County. And we also have a larger portion of residents between 60 and 64 versus the rest of the county. Probably no surprise to everybody, because once you move out here, why would you want to leave? At least that's my personal opinion. Parsonsfield is one or two communities in York that has 51% or more of the population earning low to moderate income. Again, that's due to our location. It's tough to get businesses to come out here because the population centers are closer to Portland and so on. So our rural character, which we love, is also, I wouldn't want to call it a barrier, but it is a limit to the potential income that can be earned here. Also, based on the census, about 84% of the homes are owner occupied, 16.5 renter occupied, 85% single family, 3.5% duplex, 5.3% multi, and about 7% trailer. This is also interesting. Parsonsville is one of the few inland counties that sees an increase in population in the summertime. Why? Well, you see some of the maps. Man, we've got the recreation opportunities out here. We have wonderful green areas here all around us with the leaded plantation. We have wonderful lakes and ponds, streams. It's a wonderful place to come out here and spend the summer. Winters aren't that bad either, honestly. Next, please. That chapter 1 was really just information. So that did not have any goals or anything. That was just information. So chapter 2, for residential development actions, now we're kicking off the real discussions. So you'll see there's a goal, a policy, and here's a strategy. What we've done, as you can see down here, there's actually 14 individual strategies. We don't have time to go through every single one. So we tried to pull out one or two ones that we felt were perhaps more important. I shouldn't say more important, but that were perhaps more critical, maybe more controversial. But we're trying to just highlight a few things that, when you read the whole plan, you may want to look at much more. So we want to retain a cluster village character. We want to provide housing alternatives and a commitment to open space, to planned growth, and we want to consistent with the historical development and the natural resources. So policy 1, pretty obvious, encourage residential development that prioritizes these things. What we suggest is create a cluster residential development ordinance to support development patterns in keeping with the town's historic development and trends to conserve open space. Again, that's really the only way you can do something like that. Policy 2, encourage development and access to affordable, decent housing opportunities. Yep, that makes perfect sense. We also want to implement LD 2003. It has been approved by the town voters. That's required by the state. I won't go into the details of that, but it basically allows that if your lot, your property can maintain, can support another building, another home, it has to be allowed. It does not mean that they can violate any ordinances, any setbacks, or anything like that. But a lot of this is brought on by the terrible economy over the years, where more and more children are having to live with their parents, grandparents. So this was an opportunity to be able to help break up that a little bit, so people can live at home and live independent of the rest of the family. Periodically review the zoning and code regulations, and as well as, and this is a key thing, you'll see that highlighted several times, in the staff capacity to enforce both. Again, this is a lot of work. As I mentioned, there's 14 other strategies that go along with this, under local economy. I won't spend a lot of time on this, but I think to no one's surprise, if you look here for agriculture, fishing and so on, Parsonsville, 11.5% of our population is involved with that versus the rest of York County and Maine. Over here, we're a little bit higher than most, but very, very obviously, this is where a lot of the income comes from for our residents. Down here, you'll see we're just the opposite. Below the York County and the rest of Maine for a lot of these things. And again, that kind of makes sense because of our rural location. A lot of folks in this business don't want to commute an hour and 20 minutes to Portland or other places. So this matches up with what you kind of expect. And again, the numbers clearly show us what we like and what we do out here. Next one. So local economy findings. There's other things we can put in here, but I just pulled out a couple of things. One is we don't have provisions for livestock zoning ordinance. We also currently don't have ordinance regulations to address wind and solar farms. We have many, many other things as well. One of the things I found out is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I know there's experts here, there's nothing to keep someone from putting a houseboat on our waterways and leave it there and live there. Nothing we can do about it because it's not our ordinance, it's not banned by the state. You say that may never happen? It just might. And there's many, many other things as well that there's nothing to keep out, a 400 acre RV park. Yes, that would be nice to have the summer people come in and spend that, but do you really want to have all of that added traffic? Not only a lot of the folks be using the trail system here, the water. But again, is that something that we really would want to see in our town? So the actions to experience moderate, diversified economic growth in centralized locations. We want to encourage the forestry and agricultural products industries. We want to encourage appropriate, diversified commercial development in Keezer Falls and other designated districts. And thoroughly evaluate the resource and public infrastructure that leads to that proposed large development. Again, this is economic development. We're not talking housing developments here. We want to adopt performance standards for commercial and industrial development, which mitigate the impact of infrastructure. Next one. Or we want to assess the infrastructure needs and make improvements to encourage appropriate growth. So we're proposing, and you'll see this quite a bit, conduct a downtown master plan to make recommendations for aesthetic, infrastructure, so on, for Keezer Falls and area to promote future economic development. One of the things you'll see through here is we mention a lot we should develop a plan. We should have a 5-year or a 10-year horizon on some plans in order to properly manage all the resources, in order to anticipate where we have to go get resources, line ourselves up with call it non-town funding. We need to have that plan. So we know 2 years down the road, we should start applying for state grants, federal grants, other grants. We can't wait until all of a sudden, we have to put in an extra $1.5 million for some reason because something is worn out, fell apart, something like that. So it's very important, as you'll see all through this. We recommend a lot of detailed planning with 5 to 10 year horizon. There's 16 individual strategies that just go under all of this as well. So a ton more of information there. Next one. Transportation findings. I always like to show roads. Roads always seem to be a very big topic in our system. I like this map because it shows our road system is quite well distributed. State is that's where the state takes care of things. The dark lines are where those are local roads, and we take care of it. But here you can see our town is 64 square miles. That's 101 miles of roadway. That's huge by any standard in the state. The town's partly responsible for 80 miles, more than 50 miles of that paved. Remember, we have 1,800 residents here. State aid is provided for Maplewood Road, Moulton Road, Merrill Road, North Road, and Elm Street. And that's about 20 miles altogether. And state-owned highways is 2.8 miles. I think we all know where that is. Next, please. So, as I alluded to a couple of times, our rural location limits public transportation opportunities as well as other things. We're probably never going to get a bus service out here, not for a long time. Trains, etc. No, forget it, not going to happen. But we can optimize what we do have. It's wonderful to note that our roadwork is relatively safe. If you look at all the towns, and that information's in the full comp plan, we're actually quite safe. Interestingly, the town right next door to us is way high. So I think everyone in Limerick drives way too fast. So that's my personal opinion. Parsons Field is 8 bridges, 5 are owned and maintained by the municipality, and 3 by the state. All of our bridges have a functional safety requirement of satisfactory or above. That's fantastic. That's kudos to our management, our town select board, and our management team there to keep bridges up. That everything is expensive, but bridges, when those have a problem, those go out, everything stops. So that, I think, is very significant and very good. We should be very proud of that. Our bridges are not falling apart. So transportation actions, have a well-defined and safe transportation system. And obviously meet the functional and aesthetic needs in a cost-efficient manner. First policy, maximize the efficiency of the state or state highway network. Continue to work with the transportation department to address safety issues, maintenance, and development concerns. Next, please. Address safety, maintenance, and development concerns related to town roads. We should develop or continue to update and prioritize, there it is, a 10-year improvement, maintenance, and repair plan for the transportation network. Again, the benefit of this is everyone will know what's going to happen. They'll have an idea when, and we can start planning for how are we going to get the resources to accomplish this thing. And that's pretty straightforward right there. We want to manage the land use in a way that maximizes the efficiency of the transportation system and the benefit protection of all natural resources. Yep, pretty straightforward. Maintain, enact, or amend ordinances and standards for subdivisions and for public and private roads to encourage transportation and efficient growth. That means discouraging dead ends and cul-de-sacs and provide sidewalks in village areas. That's something that's been brought up many times, but we got to get it into a longer plan if we want to plan the budget for something like that. That will go hand in hand with some of the other development activities that we anticipate. We want to meet the diverse transportation by promoting safe options for users, bicycles. I think quite a few people like to take a walk out here. Yeah, unfortunately, there's cars get out of the way, but sometimes the sides of the roads aren't quite the place where you want to drive your bicycle on. I know I've taken a dump or two, and I used to ride a lot. My wife is also as well when we kind of get off the road. A logging truck will always win. Remember, there's 17 individual strategies altogether, so there's a lot in here to unpack for the rest of the strategies. Next, please. This just is amazing. One of the reasons we have such a beautiful rural area and so green is almost 16,000 acres, or approximately 40,000 acres of land are main tree growth. That's 39%. That's a huge amount compared to any other county in the state. We are way ahead of everybody on that, and I think that accounts for one of the reasons why logging and the industry is still doing very well around here. Approximately 9,500 acres, 25%, is in conservation. Again, that's a very, very good sized number. Maybe not the biggest, but it's right up there. So there's 8,000 acres conserved in the leather plantation, right out the front window. Approximately 140 acres are held in the easement of the Piper Pomeroy Farm as easement. It's managed and owned by the Friends of Small Heritage. And this is wonderful news. On February 24th, the Northeast Wilderness Trust, the Great Oaks created the Great Oaks Wilderness Sanctuary. 553 acres of resilient and mature forest were protected now as wildfire. This gift to the town is managed also by the Friends of Small Heritage Trust. So obviously other resources are realizing, man, there's a lot to preserve out here, and things are happening to try to keep that. Natural resource actions, again, probably pretty straightforward, but conserve, protect, or preserve the natural resources, including forest, agriculture, groundwater, wildlife, scenic views, and the historic resources, buildings, cemeteries, stone walls, foundations, and sites to preserve the character of the town. Next, please. Policy 1, use the regulatory powers to limit and control development in environmentally sensitive areas. Again, not limited to, I won't read it all, but wetlands, floodplains, aquifers, public water, so on and so forth. Stay away from steep slopes, other areas of poor soil or inadequate drainage, and other critical habitat for wildlife. We recommend establishing a conservation commission and define their responsibilities. Again, one of the other key things I'll point out here, we say establish a committee and this and that. That means we need town people to participate. The folks, the resources we have here cannot do this. They cannot do it on their own. The more the town needs to engage in all of these things if we want to keep things the way they are and manage the change properly going forward. So we want to engage in support the conservation of the land. Again, I won't read all that. I basically just said the same thing up there. We want to encourage thorough regulatory powers and incentives. To preserve the existing and potentially provide productive forest lands and nature. So basically, yeah, we need to protect it a little bit more. We really don't want our forest land and open spaces to turn into large developments. At least I don't believe so. Everyone will have a chance to weigh in on that. As I just basically said, we want to limit non-residential development in most rural zones, protect the resource, and so on. Again, I don't have to read all that, but pretty straightforward. We want to try to keep businesses away from the residential areas and concentrate them in a couple of areas. There's 18 individual strategies under natural resource actions. Again, that's a lot of things, but there's a lot to unpack if we want to maintain our natural resources and the beauty that we all enjoy here. Next, please. So arts and recreation. I learned a lot. There's more things available locally than I thought. It's, I'm sure, my own fault. I do read the weekly shopper's guide. I missed a lot of things, obviously. So again, I think I'm not going to read all of these, but you can see we have all kinds of things. Parsim. We have pickleball here, coffee fellowship that goes on here, and utilizing this wonderful administrative building, music festivals, fairs, and this is the adult education. So we have Saucony Valley Adult and Community Education Center. They're a member of the MEA. So there are a lot of different things to do. We can always have more, but again, people need to participate. Next, please. So, really simple goal: accommodate the direct needs of all residents of all ages. Create a system from our more town-owned and managed recreation programs and facilities. So, again, we want to establish a recreation committee to manage the facilities, determine what additional facilities or opportunities would be viable, and make recommendations, and of course, to the select board. We want to prioritize those facilities and gear it towards older adults and the retired population because it's moving that way for our area. We want to encourage local organizations, those nonprofits that also provide opportunities. So we want to collaborate and participate in the 5-town regional Saucony Valley Recreational Council. There's opportunities out there if we collaborate with some of these other organizations and so on to, learn from what they do, capitalize on the synergy. Maybe we agree to work with Porter and other towns on certain things, and we can centrally locate something that many towns would have access to. So that way, not one town foots all the bill for something. We can place it in areas that are accessible for older adults, places that we want the kids to go wild and crazy. We can create something like that. But that's the idea behind working with all of these the regional town council. We want to protect and promote public access to public lands and water bodies. Pretty straightforward. And there's 12 individual strategies identified for this. Next, please. Only 68 more slides to go, don't worry. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Historic resource finding. Hopefully I corrected, I had a few errors that I found, or people found for me a little earlier. But again, I won't read all of this. I think many people are probably aware of these, but there's things in here I wasn't aware of either. I think everyone knows the old townhouse. I didn't realize Keyser Falls Circulating Library is on the National Historic Landmarks. Never realized that. So I learned a lot going through this process, and I think when you read the whole comprehensive plan, you also learn a lot about our town as well. Our goal is to conserve, protect, preserve the natural resources, again, including agriculture, ground, wild, all of the things that we love out here. Cemeteries, stone walls, foundations, and sites in order to preserve the character of the town of Parsonsville. That doesn't mean that we're going to prohibit everyone you can on a site because you found an old foundation. There's probably so many old foundations around here. I have my property. We have 4 foundations. 3 of them still have the old dug well in the middle of the woods. They're so overgrown. When I was walking, the wife and I are taking a hike just through the woods, almost fell into it. So they're out there. So, excuse me. So policy 1, appropriately maintain and manage any town-owned historic properties and buildings. Next, please. We want to protect our community's historic, architectural, and archaeological resources through regulatory powers, town funds, and other means. We need to update the 1990 assessment of historic sites to determine whether it's a village cluster which may be suitable for local historic district zoning. And that would provide protection for the existing building standards for future development. We recommend updating the land ordinances to require subdivision and non-residential developers to take appropriate measures to protect known historic and prehistoric sites and resources, but not limited to modification, so on and so forth. But we want to make sure everyone is responsible to manage these and make sure we don't destroy them. We want to increase the public awareness of Parsonsville unique history and celebrate it. Work with the Historical Society to develop a signage program, provide some plaques to display and identify historic sites and buildings, prehistoric sites. It could be asking a landowner, hey, would you mind if we allow people just to walk up to, take a look at this wonderful old site you have here. There's 10 individual strategies. I don't think anybody knows it other than perhaps Norm Cousin and myself, who's rest in peace. But there's the old kiln back in the back corner of our property, right on the boundary of what used to be Mr. Cousin's property. It was built probably in the 1850s. When we moved out here, it was still hot after almost 100 years, over 100 years. I went out there one time in the spring, and I could see steam coming out of this mound. It was a kiln. I'm sorry to say that's been destroyed now because of some activities with local business. But anyway, there's a lot of things out there that may be worth trying to preserve. Next, please. I think everyone should know this, but the town owns the Fred Morrill Municipal Building. That's where we are. And the old townhouse on Middle Road. Can't miss it. If you're looking at it, though, you may go right off the road and into the corner, so be careful if you're looking for it. And this, again, I'd like to just put up there just so everyone's aware. The second rescue unit is a 4-town rescue unit located in South Hiram. In 2019, they took 637 calls, 149 of them were in Parsonsville. So for goals, the goal, of course, is to provide community facilities and services which meets the needs of the residents, encourage public services and utilities in a way that's consistent with conservation of our natural resources and historic development. First policy, provide affordable municipal facilities which are conveniently located to the public, well maintained, and have a suitable working environment for residents, boards, committees. So, again, we should create a municipal building report which inventories all current town-owned properties, buildings, facilities, the parties responsible for their maintenance, and the funds available for that maintenance, and any needs for the next 5 years. So again, create a plan that not only highlights what we have, but also what are we going to need for the next 5 years. Next, please. Policy 2, provide in an efficient manner municipal services that reflect the need and desires of the community. Support the provision of regional services which are not effective to promote at a town level. So basically, if we can't do it, let's find another resource that can. State, county, maybe collaborate again with other towns. Look at this. Hosting an annual meeting of the 5-town district, including elected officials, committees, other staff, to discuss challenges, so on, share resources, updates, identify collaboration, and foster a better understanding of goals and needs. More things can get done more efficiently and effectively if all the towns are working together, rather than 5 towns creating 5 copies of the same thing. It may not be necessary. It's a waste of resources and money. Consider the provision of water and sewer utilities in keeping with the needs of the community, either through quasi-public or private operators or town-owned systems. Assist in the provision of solid waste management programs. I know we have a very active team here that promotes our solid waste activity, but again, it's one of the policy. And I should also point out that just because we say something like this doesn't mean that we're not doing anything. You know, we are already involved in several of these things. We may have identified some more detail around it, but don't anyone think for a second that these are all brand new. Nobody's ever heard of it. That's not true. Our town fathers have tried very hard to manage the town in the way that we all want. And there's 19 individual strategies identified. So quite a lot in there. Next, please. And this is really kind of interesting as well. We're the only community in the immediate region where the total land valuation is higher than the total building evaluation. That's amazing. Our land is worth more than all of the houses put together. Most interesting. This is a shocker. Over the last 10 years, when adjusted for inflation, administration expenses have decreased by 27%. That means these folks are trying to do more with less. 27% when adjusted, a decrease. I think you'd be hard pressed to find any other town in the state of Maine and probably surrounding states that would have something like that. When adjusted for inflation over the last 10 years, our property taxes have seen the smallest increase over all other types of residue, only increasing 3%. What that means is property taxes have gone up, but we've also seen a larger increase with state aid, county aid, other resources. And again, that's kudos to our town government that's trying to constantly find alternative resources. They work very hard to minimize any tax revenue increases. And I think they've done a pretty darn good job. So for the fiscal analysis actions, address the needs of the community in a fiscally sound and responsive manner. Very obvious. Seek an alternative income sources to offset compliance and property taxes. So one of the things that's in there, and there's many others, but explore the feasibility of a development impact fee, which would require developers to contribute funds proportional to the increased demand for services resulting from a new development. If someone builds a house with 15 homes on it, well, we have to absorb all the extra waste picking up, all the increased traffic on the roads for road maintenance, many other things. Well, the developer, he or she should foot a lot of that to jumpstart that whole process. It's not fair to the rest of us that we shoulder that responsibility. Next, please. Maintain a reasonable tax rate, which is consistent with maintaining services and is responsible basis. There's that word again. A plan. Develop a 10-year CIP, Capital Improvement Plan, which outline year-to-year allocations for savings and reserve accounts for specific purposes. Document the reserve accounts which are active and use that CIP to develop an annual capital budget to be voted on annually at the town meeting. And again, the more information the voters have about what's coming in the future, I think we can all make, hopefully, better decisions, or be able to manage our potential capital that comes in much better. This may upset some folks because this can be a little controversial, but conduct an updated townwide assessment to ensure the valuations reflect current property values. Once updated, establish revolving valuation to begin 2 to 3 years after the update to avoid the large cost and burden of a 10-year town update. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the assessment costs approximately $300,000. Well, every 10 years or so, bing, that pops up. Our town fathers have already started that. They realize this is coming, and so they have started a small fund to start building the resources so this doesn't gut any key programs in the budget. That's called planning. Practice transparency and productive collaboration in the annual budget process. There are 10 other individual strategies that go along with these for fiscal analysis. Next, please. Existing land use. New residential, commercial, and recreational types have become more common since the last major ordinance update. Again, one of the things I mentioned was water homes. Those are allowed. Other things have come up that who would ever imagine? Do you want windmills, wind generation on in everybody allowed? What is it? What is it you want? What do we need to do to ensure we don't ruin the aesthetic quality of our town? We want to ensure that the development is not spread over a large area in a irregular way. This is also known as urban sprawl. It's much more difficult to not only just preserve the natural resources, but also it makes it much more expensive for the town to provide services. If there's a house every 200 yards all over the place, it can be done, but guess what? It's going to cost a lot more money. So this makes a lot of sense to me. So the goal, develop and enforce regulatory measures in keeping with the main statutes. Then again, you'll see natural resources. That's probably on every single slide. Protect our natural resources, provide adequate development standards, and guide development in keeping with this plan. First policy, analyze the municipal needs and development trends on a periodic basis. We review the municipal data in the comprehensive plan annually and update the sections as needed. In order to make smart decisions, you have to have current data. We all know we live in a data-based world. Data is what you need to make smart, informed decisions. Next, please. Revise the zoning ordinances as needed to be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. Evaluate the zoning ordinances for emerging uses which are not covered. Big job. Adjust regulations as needed to ensure the growth is consistent with our ability to provide our services and infrastructure. Direct growth where development in neighborhoods already exists to avoid sprawling development. Again, it's that urban sprawl and negative impacts associated with infrastructure and the environment. Consider implementing a differential growth cap, which will allow more development in denser neighborhood areas and villages and less in the rural zone. So again, try to move the development into the areas where it's already begun. We want to protect our natural resources and critical natural areas through buffer zones, currently defined in the shoreland zoning ordinances, as well as other zoning tools. So consider the feasibility of a mandatory open space zoning, also known as conservation subdivisions, for rural areas where any subdivision is required to retain a large share of land, often 60 to 80% of open space outside the lots that are developed. That goes a long way to also preserving the rural character that we have. There are 14 other individual strategies that go along with the existing land use. Next, please. This map I put up here identifies the growth, rural, and transitional areas. We are so blessed. Oops, sorry about that. We're so blessed to have this wonderful natural area, recreational area, right smack in the middle of our town. Okay, the New Hampshire people can share them. That's okay. They're not really from away, I guess. But you can see also where growth areas are identified, and again, rural areas. And these are areas, the pink, and that's kind of an important thing where we envision transitioning to growth. We're proposing that right along here, along Route 160, that we transition that so to allow more growth. And also around the Province Lake area. Province Lake has the draw, of course, that there's the lake there. There's a restaurant, golf course. There's a gentleman up there who's trying to get a grocery store going. The folks out here sometimes can't share in all the services we have. Sometimes it takes gammas longer to get there. But if there's more financial resources coming into the town from in this area, it's easier to justify putting a substation out there. So responses can be 20 minutes and 30 minutes instead of 45 minutes or longer in bad cases. So that's one of the reasons we put this on here. And I'll be frank with everyone, I'm the one who kind of pushed that a little bit. I also have another theory on that. I think that also may attract very larger homes and more expensive homes. And honestly, I'd rather have $1 or $2 million homes built than 5 or 6 $350,000 homes. Again, it's easier on, less impact on our infrastructure. Yet we still get the taxes because the homes will be hopefully high value. Next, please. So we want to include a provision in the zone ordinance which requires developments of a certain size to include electric charging stations or the infrastructure to install them in the future. What's the future of EVs? We can argue about that. They've come on strong. And I think next time cost of gasoline jumps 20 or 30, 40%, EVs may be a little bit more cost effective. We want to expand public infrastructure as necessary to support future growth in the Keyser Falls area, invest in water and sewer, public amenities such as sidewalks, crosswalks, lighting, and public parking. We want to draw smaller businesses and build up that community. You have to have these. You can't build a business and just put in a septic system anymore. Not in the village area. We only have one small parking lot. That's where the post office is. I think that can hold, 25 vehicles or something like that. Much less in the winter time because I can't push the stove. So these are things that we want to say, yeah, we should have business. We have to seriously look at the public infrastructure that's necessary to support it. And as I just mentioned, there's two rural, I have a hard time with that word. 2 rural areas have been identified which may be transitioned to growth areas in the future. The section of North Road right down here, all the way butting up to the seminary, and the area to adjacent Province Lake. Just so long, I don't want people thinking because I'm on the committee, I don't want anyone to build next to me. I live on it right here. I live 2 houses down in the woods. So yes, I'm throwing my rural area into North Road because it's the best thing for the town, we feel. It's the majority rules. I would love to have no one else build around here. It's called the drawbridge effect. Once I move here, no one else should be able to move out here. It's an old concept, but it's just not practical if you want to have growth and manage it properly, and also ensure that we have protect our resources. Next, please. And guess what? This is next to the last slide. Implementation of the voter plan. This one slide is really encompasses a lot. So, just the major responsible parties, the select board, planning board. You know that they're call it the usual folks. We recommend the Conservation Commission, Recreation Committee to manage the town-owned facilities and open space. As I said earlier, we want to coordinate with the SBRC to achieve the best overall results. And I mentioned probably 7 or 8 times, might as well make it 9 or 10. We need to create detailed plans with 5 and 10-year horizons in order to manage the town budget, anticipating and secure outside funding, and manage our resource allocation. Also, and this is also key, you can't just do it with the current folks we have and the current staff. And this is also the volunteer folks on the planning board and elsewhere. The town must consider additional staffing, or at the minimum, additional resources for existing staff to increase their ability to dedicate time and to complete the recommended actions in the plan. The town recently has approved at the last meeting to buy some software. So the folks here, you can track road issues. You submit the information. It goes to the right person. You'll get a response back. It also keeps track of all the requests, the dates, and so on that came in there. It's something many people might think, well, just an email and someone can create an Excel spreadsheet. That takes time. Somebody has to do that. And honestly, you just saw we've reduced our administration costs by 27% over the years. So they don't have the bandwidth to take on a lot of that stuff. So implementation strategy. Establish a comprehensive plan implementation committee. Seat the committee with reps from the select board, budget committee, as well as some of the team comprehensive plan committee. Will serve as a central body to monitor the plan progress, navigate challenges in implementation, and support accountability. One of the things, and the select board should recommend that the select board annually identify 3 to 5 strategies to focus on for each fiscal year, and implement the committee supports and monitor the progress. There's no way our town government could possibly implement all of this simultaneously, because it covers soup to nuts. Everything that goes into our town, everything that's going to go into our future, and everything that's required to protect, we believe, to protect the rural character and the wonderful life that we all enjoy out here. The comprehensive plan draft, which is, I think, it's 136 pages altogether. That's will be available on the town website. And also the town survey I mentioned, that will be posted on there as well for those that would like to see that. And I believe this is still current. Contact the town office to request hard copies of the documents at a minimal cost. Next, please. Ta-da! That's it. That's it. I just have to comment on the fireworks thing. I made hundreds of presentations over the years. I always ended it with that, even business presentations. So forgive me. That's my own little thing I like to do. Just kind of wakes people up. What? Is it over? So again, thank you all for your attention. Please, review the plan. Remember, we're going to have, we will respond to requests for more information, and we'll have a public hearing coming up as well. So We highly recommend that you read it. We hope you all support it and agree that, yep, this is the right thing to do. And with that, I say, again, thank you all for your attention, and please vote yes. Good night, everybody. I was gonna see if I could keep it. I know you know I